Hey, Matt, what's happening?
Not much, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, we got another episode of the Risk Control Show. I'm Steve Wilmes. That's Matt Kita, and we're here to talk a little bit about the general duty clause of OSHA, right? I mean, this thing is really nothing more than a catch-all for every safety policy and procedure that you can imagine.
Right.
Like, it's the thing that your mom used to say, right? Because I said so.
Oh, couldn't stand that when I got that. It's like, oh, what do I do with this? There's nothing I can do with this.
You can't do anything. It's just
No.
because I said so. You're in violation and you deserve a citation or spanking or
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever.
what do they call that? Grounding.
Grounding.
You're
Yeah.
grounded.
Nowadays, I guess he'd take the phone away. No internet access.
Yeah. Oh man, we got to talk about the Wi-Fi and privacy issues too. Stay tuned on the Risk Control Show. We're going to talk about that as well. Just a little glimpse onto that, a little teaser, so to speak. But they're using Wi-Fi now to basically do 3D imaging of people in their homes, and we're going to talk about it. It's a really serious privacy violation. But at any rate, yeah, this general duty clause, I think it's important to understand it a little bit. I want to just kind of take a look here and show what that general duty clause is. General duty clause, I want to read it out loud, but basically it's 5A1 of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, and it basically says that it requires the employer to furnish to its employees employment and a place of employment which are free from recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm to his or her employees. And they say his employees, so they need to get on this
Right.
this gender issue
Yeah,
here.
the gender pronoun issue.
But bottom line is that it's really that catch-all. It's that I told you so, I said so. And a lot of OSHA inspectors, what they do is they don't look at that serious physical harm, right? Mm-hmm. So you get a paper cut, you get a cut when you're a mechanic and you're working with tools. Obviously, that's going to happen a little bit here and there. You know, is it serious? It could be serious if it becomes an infection, but generally, we bump our heads sometimes, right? We just do silly things, and some of us shake it off and some of us don't, right? And so really the severity and seriousness issue comes into play, and it's one thing that I've always not struggled with. I've always had an opinion on. Dollars don't mean severity, right? Or seriousness. You can get somebody that has a little ache and pain. You see this in the workplace all the time. You get people that just don't deal well with pain. It could be very minor. I see it in Krav all the time too. They're tapping out. Look at the UFC. They tap out faster than others, right? Like some people can really tolerate a lot and some can't. And so if you're going to the doctor and you're spending a lot of money that way, or you're trying to cheat the system, the dollars can look very big, but the injury is very minor. So the severity but back to this general duty, what OSHA wants us to do is to make sure that we're looking at all of our hazards, looking at our workplace, and then trying to correct those. And I don't know about you, Matt, but OSHA seems to think that the only thing we're in business to do a lot of times is comply with all their regulations.
Yeah, well, yeah, that pretty much does. That's exactly what it feels like. Look, and I understand, like, they need to, on some level, like, I understand the need to have an order like this on the books so that it does kind of give a little bit of a stick to to the employers, like, hey, this is something you got to do, because obviously in the long run we do want people to be able to work in a safe and healthful environment, and we understand that. But yeah, look, it's always along a spectrum, right? Like on one side, yes, you want to protect against this, but it's very easy, especially for some bureaucratic oversight types of organizations, to kind of push too hard on the other side and to really nail you for the little stuff and the ticky tacky. And look, it's not like that stuff isn't important. It absolutely is. But you have to, it's kind of like a bang for your buck thing, right? Like, are you really helping anybody by tagging this company or this organization
Yeah,
with
no,
a
not at
harsh
all. I
judgment?
mean, you spend
You
all your
know?
time and resources trying to, you know, deal with OSHA, when the fix could be $1,000 fix, but now you spent your money. We have clients that run very slim margins in the private sector, and they don't have that kind of money,
Right.
to deal with it. And
Right.
sometimes you
You
can
know, it
do all the.
reminds me of when I was in the restaurant business way back when.
What happened?
It's I'm getting my internet connection is unstable right now. I'm like for a second I thought you stopped talking, and then and I interjected something, and then I was like, wait a sec, he's not moving anymore.
Oh yeah, yeah. You stopped moving too. All right, so
Yeah, no
go ahead.
surprise.
Go ahead. Like when you were in the restaurant business, start that again.
Yeah. So when I was in the restaurant business, obviously it was fairly common for us to get visits of the health department. We'd actually get two visits because every company I worked with, except for one of the mom and pop shops I was at, always had their own quality control, health, food, and safety person who would come in. So they
Right.
would hire a third party vendor who would come in, and they would look at our operations, and they would give us a grade. Like it was basically like a health code, but then we would also get a health department visit as well. In both cases, in fact, we usually actually had a worse time with our own third party vendors than we
Yeah.
did with the safety inspectors, which I know is by design. The company wanted it to go that way, but what often would happen is they would come in, whether it was a health inspector or this third party vendor inspector would come in, and they would say, hey, this little thing here should not be done this way. This needs to be, look, you need this towel should not be out of your sanitizer bucket. When you're not using it, it needs to be back in sanitizer bucket. Do you have the proper mix for the sanitizer for that bucket, for instance? Are you leaving the stove on when it's not needed? Things like that. And they'll say, hey, this is happening. Stop doing that. But let's fix this, and they'll allow you to fix it. And they won't note that. They
Right.
will look for the big stuff and said, hey, and I understand if they go in and say, hey, your walk-in is not holding temp, that's a major issue. You're not going to say, hey, flip a switch and make that
Right.
better. That's
Right.
something that
Of
has
course.
to go in a report. And I, as a restaurant manager, understood that.
Sure.
I mean, as in that role, I wanted my customers, my guests, to have great food
Right.
and healthy food. And I can't do that with a walk-in that isn't holding temperature,
Sure.
allowing bacteria to grow. So I always liked that the inspector gave us that leeway on the small stuff, but still did his or her job and dinged us on the hard stuff because that's proper and appropriate. And it feels like you're telling me OSHA's kind of taking a line of like, I'm going to know every little thing down, and I'm
Oh,
going to
you've
get you
seen
for
it on all. When we
Yeah.
appeal citations for our clients, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
You see those things. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it, but you're either wrong, you're over the top, or you don't even understand your own provisions of the standard. And the big one here that contradicts this, and I've written about it many times on the blog post. I'm sure, Matt, you'll link it up in there so that our viewers can go in and read these things. But I give a lot of tips and philosophical, logical arguments, on how to use logic against OSHA when they just don't seem to make any sense. For example, this is the one I love, right? You go, heat illness, and you say, well, you need to have a quart of water per hour available to the employees during their time outside. Okay, so your work shift's 8 hours. You start out with 8 hours. They're down to 4. They got 4 quarts left, right? And then they go, well, they've been out here 8 hours. There's not 8 quarts there. And you're like, yeah, because they drank some. Right? They drank it.
Seems pretty logical.
They do what they're supposed to do, right?
Right.
Or this one, like, and you do have the Employer Line of Defense and Independent Employee Act, but it's hard to prove. And a lot of times our employers or organizations, public agencies, all of them, they don't do certain things. Like, that's why when we look at the training records and maintaining training records and sign-in sheets, like, it's paramount for us. We make sure that we have every little detail down and we got it there, because that's part of that Independent Employee Act, that you got to prove that they've been through training, what the training was, blah blah blah.
Right.
But here's an example. Slip and fall, right? So you give them training, you do all these things. Maybe you can't prove the Independent Employee Act that they got injured because they forgot to wear their slip-resistant shoes that day. Okay, right. So they have a fall. Or maybe they're coming in to pick up their paycheck and they're in their street clothes and they slip and they fall and boom. Okay, so now they go, well, that was an incident, and you have an ineffective IIPP. And I love that. Ineffective IIPP because somebody got hurt. But you look at the logic of this, and what do they say in the requirements of the Cal OSHA IIPP? There's 8 total elements, 7 plus 1, record keeping is the 8th. But the one element is compliance, right? And for those individuals that don't comply, they should get disciplined. Which tells you by logic that there is expected accidents that will occur.
Yeah.
Because
I agree with that.
Otherwise, everybody will be a prudent person and follow every part of your IIPP and never be injured. And therefore, you don't need to issue discipline because everyone's always following the safety rules. But by the mere fact that you are saying that you have to have discipline for those that don't follow the safety rules means that people are going to be injured. So if you discipline the people, then you're following all the provisions of your IIPP. Therefore, it's effective. But they say it's ineffective because somebody got hurt. But they're expecting people to get hurt. That's why the discipline is there. And if
they're moving the goalposts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what this general duty clause is all about. They don't have a standard for it. There's something that they overlooked. There's something that, is not a piece of code anywhere else. They don't have a particular provision for this line of work. And so they go, okay, you're still at fault. And you're going, well, I don't know about that. I think we've done everything that we could do. No. Somebody got injured because I said so. We want money. We need money. And so there it is. So how do you defeat this general duty clause? Well, you try to do your periodic inspections. You try to make sure that employees report those hazards. You try to take a look at them. As Matt said, you hire third-party consultants. Obviously, the consultants are going to be much more thorough than your inspectors. Your inspectors, a lot of time, they're green. They don't know all the provisions. I can tell you time and time again, like how many times called consultation, people that were part of our American Society of Safety Engineers or whatever, like the aerosol transmissible disease standard comes out and you're trying to figure it out. It's been 6-8 months, right? Cal OSHA's enacted it. You call them, they're like, we haven't even been trained on it yet. Well, how are you enforcing a standard that you don't even know? Right? Like it's totally ridiculous. So your consultants are going to be better experts at their track and really know what to look for and keep you safe. They're trying to keep you out of the sights of these governmental bodies, which have, these wild clauses. And
Right.
so study your logic, get a good consultant such as us, and we have attorneys that fight the Cal OSHA. We appeal all the Cal OSHA citations. We really look at it. A lot of times we can get rid of them without the use of attorneys. But, there's just this general duty clause. It's so important to understand that no matter what you do, this is always sitting above your head. It's the dark cloud that you could do everything right that you are aware of, know of, should know of, and someone still does something that is completely insane, and you end up on the hook of general duty.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check us out. We got a bunch of great stuff. We have the Wilmes website, which you can see all of our great blog posts, and Dollar Training Club, where you can get training. And we're also on Udemy for those of you using Udemy. So check that out. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can follow all these. We'll see you soon on the next episode of the Risk Control Show.
See you guys.